Hello, my name is Stephanie Vanderveen, and I'm so thrilled to be sitting here with my friend, Miss Kathy Crothers. We are here at the River of Hope Baptist Church, and we are going to be talking to you about a very important topic regarding your kids and stress. We first want to just acknowledge that we are here at the River of Hope, and we are located on the Treaty 6 territory. It was a traditional gathering place by diverse Indigenous peoples whose histories and languages and cultures continue to influence our community.
In addition to that, the town of Devon acknowledges that we are on Treaty 6 territory and within the traditional lands of Cree, Blackfoot, Nakota, Anishinaabe, and the Métis people. We commit to keeping the spirit and intent of Treaty 6 alive through the continued collaboration with all Indigenous peoples by working towards a brighter future together. Thank you.
So we are here on behalf of Town of Devon, the Family Community
Support
Services, and we're also here with River of Hope Baptist Church to be able to talk to you. So thank you for joining us. We are going to be doing 4 quick 15-minute presentations. So today is day 1 of our 4-part series.
Yes. So what we're going to cover is a very valuable program called Kids Have Stress Too. And that being said, we want you to know that it's written and continually updated by the Psychology Foundation of Canada. What the mission will be is that we want confident kids, productive adults, and a common language regarding stress, anxiety, and what we can do to support our children. So we want this information for parents, caregivers, educators, grandparents, and we want them to become more aware of stress and to help children cope with stress and develop effective ways to deal with it. Gain a sense of control and learning ways to relax, become less tense, less frustrated, develop a can-do attitude. We want to tell them what to do, not what not to do.
Right.
And build a capacity for self-regulation. Maybe we should dive right into it. Let's talk about what's stress, Steph.
Right. Well, you mentioned before that this book right that you've had, that you passed on to me from the Psychology Foundation of Canada. It's excellent. It is a few years old. We can't find exactly when it came out, but there's just so much information here which is relevant to years ago and to today. So the first thing it talks about is what is stress. So what is stress? There is a difference between anxiety and stress. So let's tackle on stress.
So stress is an everyday occurrence. We all have stress. You know, it's our body's response to being afraid, overworked, overloaded, overstimulated, threatened, excited. And we tend to think of stress in a very negative way. However, some stress is very good for us. It helps us be energized. It helps us be organized and feel alert, interested even. However, if there is too much stress, particularly when it becomes out of control, it can become a problem. So every young person, every old person, everybody experiences stress. What's important is for the adults to recognize when children are stressed, or let's talk about our friends being stressed, our spouses being stressed, and how that can lead to unwanted behaviors, perhaps behaviors that take a child away from the positive aspects of their life.
Right. And one thing we did discuss earlier regarding kids and stress is it's usually more upsetting for them because they cannot identify it as that they are stressed out, but rather just feeling out of control and unable to communicate something is wrong. And so it's part of our job as caregivers to kind of notice that and be able to say, okay, what is the situation and how can we deal with that? Which is what we're talking about with stress, is how we can identify that a kid is stressed and how we can help them. So using the right tools.
That's right. And, the thing about recognizing it is sometimes it won't be right away. Sometimes you might realize it an hour, a half day, or the next day. What matters is what you do with the information. So let's move forward to what are examples of everyday stress?
All right. Well, for me and my kids especially, mornings can be very stressful. Trying to get them out of bed, getting them fed, getting their things together for school that day. That is a very quick morning right there, which can lead to stress. And of course, you don't want to throw your kids out the door stressed. So identifying that and making sure that the mornings can't be that stressful or shouldn't be that stressful. Mm-hmm. That's just my very first example right there.
Yeah, that was a common one when I was raising my kids. And, even in our play groups, we'll see families arrive and they're just so happy to come through the doors to run into indoor playground because all of those stresses are alleviated.
Yep.
Those rush mornings. Exposure to new situations. So our young children, and I think a lot of adults too.
No one likes change.
Well, it's difficult, isn't it? So new situations. Perhaps we're going to make a new rule. We're going to enjoy family meals. Everybody to the table. There's no more, eating on the fly.
No electronics, no TV on.
Right.
That's a new change. Yep.
Yeah, that can be huge stressor. What about unrealistic expectations? Too many demands on the children.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that my 3 kids are all very different, but when you have your first eldest and you have your second one coming up right behind them, you're kind of expecting them to be just like their oldest sibling, and that's unrealistic. I can't expect my child, my second one or third one even, to be the same as the first one.
That is such a perfect example, Steph. We're comparing, so we compare them to each other. And then also, I know one thing I did. I really wanted my children to like what I did. I wanted them to like the same sports. I wanted them to enjoy all the same TV programs, whatever it was. It was unrealistic.
The same meals.
Yes.
Yes. Separation from parents when kids are going to school or going to play groups or going to day homes. Absolutely realizing that could be a stressful situation. Even if it's a good place and the teachers love them and they love the teachers, it's still separation, especially from a standpoint right now where we've had a lot of families together for so long.
Yes, that is another very good point. The last couple of years, many families have really coagulated together and have a strong bond. So we need to identify within our own families and within our larger circle and then our community that children are having separation anxiety.
Yep. Fights or disagreements with siblings. I'm not sure if any of you parents have that with your kids. My kids are angels, but they fight all the time. So even that, it can be upsetting. I know my beautiful middle child, when his younger brother tries to pull his strings, which he does very well, that just breaks his heart. And so that's one of those things where you have to kind of address the stressful situation and try and find a way to fix that.
Yes. Also, difficulties with friends. In the early years, children, they play side by side and or often really like the same thing. So when it comes to the tug of wars and what game to play, how long to play, that can really be stressful for little people.
Yep. Transitioning from one activity to a place to another. We do the Thursday play groups here in Devon, and it's excellent. But if you have a kid who just loves the blocks, and then another kid comes wants to play with the blocks, and it's trying to push that kid away, having to bring that kid to another activity, that can be pretty stressful. They had fun there, they want to stay there, and they don't understand why they're being moved. So that could be a stressful situation.
Yes. So transitioning also can be when the child arrives at the day home or the daycare. Let's say even when they're having a really crazy wild morning, and we bring them to our church, and they have to switch it up. And let's talk about when children are transitioning from, say, dad's home to mom's home. Those kinds of transitions can evoke a lot of emotion within a child. So we want to really be mindful of those kinds of changes.
Yep. That kind of jumps in as well with frequent change of caregivers. That could be grandma and grandpa, that can be mom to dad's house, that could be day home to home.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, I always like to throw in when my grandkids go home, I miss them dearly. Oh, as soon as they leave, I'm standing on the driveway, waving and waving like there's no tomorrow. And when they get home, they're often a little difficult to deal with. And I tell them that's because of the transitioning, and they're missing grandma. So get with the program, you guys.
And just leave them with grandma.
Yeah. So what's very important to think about this is that when stress becomes chronic and long-term, it can inhibit a child's learning process, and it can contribute to long-term unhealthiness and a weakened immune system. So, that being said, let's dive into the long-term or chronic stress.
Absolutely. So these are usually unhappy or difficult experiences that can affect people for a long time. That can include serious ongoing conflict between family members, going through separation or a divorce, or even having death in the family can definitely be a long-term or chronic stress for a child. A divorce or separation, a serious illness or a health condition. We talked about COVID-19. This has been a long-term thing we're going through. I mean, it's been over 2 years now, and that's definitely affecting our children.
Yes. So Steph and I had a really heartfelt conversation, and many of the people that we know have contact. I'm sure all of you know someone or some families. The differences with all of the information we've been given in the last couple of years, all of a sudden maybe a family isn't speaking to each other. And you know how much stress that causes you. It's important to think about how much stress that causes the children. Like, why aren't we talking to auntie or uncle, and why are the conversations being hated?
Yep.
So that can move into the long-term stress.
Another one that we talked about with kids is being bullied or harassed over time. And thanks to this amazing digital age we have now with social media, it's a lot easier to get bullied in the safety of your home. So even kids who aren't really young but are older, who are now on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok in chat rooms, they're able to now to not get a safe place anymore, but have people in their room bullying them. So making sure that we recognize when our kids are stressed and trying to find out what the problem situation may be, and if it's being bullied, finding ways to address that, because that definitely interferes with how a kid is going to be able to interact with their friends, their family, themselves, and how they're going to grow from that.
Another long-term or chronic stress can evolve around the death of a loved one, a family member, even a death of a pet, and the longing and yearning for the person or the pet. And we need to remember that it might be 3 or 4 months later after the death, and you'll find your child acting peculiar. It's important to think about those evolutions, even if they're surpassed 4 or 5 months.
Absolutely. Some people grieve a lot longer, and some people don't grieve until that buffer zone is over. So being able to recognize and again be able to have that interaction, having that communication with a child and going, let's talk what's going on, like what's happening in your life right now, what's making you sad. Very important.
Very important.
Yeah.
So also something that has come up time and time again, and with today's fast moving society, is unrealistic expectations, not only from parents, caregivers, but unrealistic expectations that children are putting on themselves. And maybe they want to do as their older brother or sister, or they see on TV.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's important to explore those kinds of stresses.
Yep.
All right. So what we want to talk about next is stress or anxiety. So we've talked about what is stress. Anxiety is a little deeper. It's a little more often. And what anxiety is, it's the emotion that prevents your child from doing the everyday things that they might have done or that they feel they cannot do. So they might imagine that going to school will be almost dangerous.
Yeah.
It's for them, their stress has enrooted within them that they are not able to separate their feelings, their negative feelings, their over anxiousness from just the regular feelings that they might have about other things.
Yeah, when it starts to interfere with their lives, that's the difference between being stressed and being anxious.
So if you see your child needing way more assurance than they normally need, and that they're not coping well, they're not able to follow instructions or communicate, where normally they would be able to say, you know, Mom, I don't feel safe there, or I don't like it when they're not able to communicate those thoughts to you anymore. So we'll talk some more about that in our next episode,
right?
And we'll do just a short recap next time we see you. And thank you very much for joining us today. And see you next time.
See you next time.